Hey there, welcome to Mike's Collection episode 186. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today is Action Force Series 2A. Now, if you're here watching this video, I assume you probably already know what Action Force is, but just in case you don't, I'll give you a very quick recap. So there was a former employee that used to work at Hasbro, as well as a couple other toy companies, who, when he lost his job at Hasbro, decided to branch out on his own and make his own toy company. So this guy was Bobby Vala, and the toy company he founded was Valaverse. And the first toy line that he wanted to launch was called Action Force. And this was to be a 6-inch military line of toys along the lines of G.I. Joe, which is one of the brands that he had worked on previously. So, elements of American military, but it also had its own kind of like mythology. He had this whole story about the United States being broken up into different territories, and there was different teams representing the different territories. It had a little bit of a sci-fi element. There was this evil group known as the Swarm. It looked very promising. He showed lots of cool concept art about the things he wanted to do with this line. And at the time, a lot of people were really excited about this line because there was no 6-inch military line available. The collecting community seemed to be trending towards 6-inch. Like Marvel, Legends is the big line from Hasbro, and they kind of had gotten away from doing their smaller 3 3/4-inch Marvel Universe line. Even Star Wars, which probably has the most famous 3 3/4-inch Star Wars line, dating back to the late 70s, early 80s. They had switched to the Star Wars Black series, which was a 6-inch line. So that seemed to be the trend. And, G.I. Joe had been dormant for a couple of years, and it had ended. They were 3 3/4-inch, were more like 4-inch at that point in time. But it had kind of fizzled out. When Bobby wanted to launch his line of Action Force, he's like, there's this, void that I can fill with these 6-inch action figures. And so he launched it via a Kickstarter. And I was on board with this right away. I was following along with the process. In fact, Bobby actually came on the show and we did an interview together, which is crazy. It's way back on episode 33 of this show. So I was still pretty new at it. I didn't have very many viewers or anything. I really don't know why he wasted his time with me, but I appreciated it. He was just trying to get the word out on his Kickstarter to as many people as he could. Now, unfortunately, that Kickstarter didn't fund, so, you need to set a minimum rate for the Kickstarter to go ahead, and he didn't achieve that. So rather than give up, Bobby kind of reimagined things. He maybe thought, maybe I had too many different types of figures in the first wave. Maybe if I simplify it, narrow it down, maybe make the tiers easier to achieve, I'll take a second go at it, which he did, and which I funded, or I backed. And the project did fund. So this was a while ago now. I forget exactly the dates of when the first Kickstarter started and then the second Kickstarter started. But all total, it'd been about a 2-year plus process for this to start, and false start and then get started again. And I've been very excited for these figures to come out. He was very good about showing the production process and how things were coming along. And then, COVID hit during the production of these things, and that slowed things up a little bit. And then in the meantime, Hasbro announced they were going to do a 6-inch G.I. Joe Classified line. And then Super 7 announced they were going to do a 6-inch G.I. Joe Ultimates line. So now we've got 2 lines of 6-inch G.I. Joe, which, being perfectly honest, if I knew both those lines were going to be coming out that I would be collecting, I might not have been as eager to back Action Force. But at the time, that was kind of the only game in town, and I'm glad I did back then because, they really are great figures, and it's an original property. It's just really, really cool stuff. So he finally started shipping out Wave 1 right around the end of the year. I think it was around December 2021, and mine arrived, I want to say December 30th, and I was able to post a video right before the end of the year to show you Wave 1. I did an unboxing video, and then I did kind of an in-depth review. And a couple of those figures managed to squeak onto my best of 2021 list. Even though I only had them for a couple of days before the end of the year, they really were so impressive that they ended up bumping a couple of things off of my list. So yeah, really great figures. And I've been looking forward to the Wave 2 figures. He announced that Wave 2 would be coming quickly after Wave 1 shipped. Now, the problem is, well, one problem, is I don't know if he found maybe the international shipping was just too much of a hassle to deal with, which I could understand, because when I paid for Wave 1, it was, like I said, 2 years ago. So, he set them out, whatever the rate was for the figures, $30 US or so per figure. And then there were some accessory sets and some not deluxe figures that were a little bit cheaper. And then he set an international rate for shipping. So it calculated my shipping to be whatever amount. I don't remember. Let's say $60 or something. But then 2 years later happened. The cost of shipping had all gone up through COVID, but he'd already committed to his original shipping. So I imagine he took a bit of a hit when it came to shipping. Probably not so much domestically, but I bet international shipping probably he took a big hit. So when Wave 2 was announced, and they were for sale through Bobby Vala's website, Valaverse.com, he said these are only going to be available to U.S. customers. Now, he did say he would be supplying his figures through third parties like Big Bad Toy Store, but for a Canadian like me, that was the only avenue. So I got these figures a little bit later than some others. So when it came to Wave 1, I was kind of right at the forefront. I was, one of the first guys that had the figures, and I could show them to you. But with Wave 2, a lot of people have already had them now for maybe even a couple of months. But I had to wait for Big Bad Toy Store to get their stock from Valaverse, and then for them to ship it to me. And they've finally done so. Now, he did break Wave 2 into two separate groups of figures. So like I said, this is just going to be 2A. I think 2B is scheduled to ship pretty soon, so it won't be too long before I have a video to review 2B. But anyway, so yeah, I want to get into these figures. It's a smaller set of figures than Wave 1 was. I had 14 total figures to show you when I did my Wave 1 review. Now, mind you, some of those were duplicate figures. And I do have I have one set of duplicates here today in this review. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We'll get into that in a second. So why don't we get into the Wave 2 reviews? Here's one of the figures right here. A really cool figure. I like this guy a lot. But before that, I think I'm going to just quickly do a quick recap of the figures of Wave 1, and then we'll dive right into the new figures. So here are my Wave 1 figures. So this guy here is Condor, which I guess you could call the leader of Action Force. I don't know if that's necessarily his rank, but that's kind of how I view him. And then here, this is one of, I mentioned the non-deluxe figures. I guess I could call this a basic figure. So you notice with Condor, he's got like this extra vest on, he's got all these extra straps on his legs and these guns. And so that figure there was about $30 or so. Maybe it was 35, I can't recall exactly. But this figure here came with nothing, really. He's just a very basic figure. He came with two different heads, one with like a Caucasian head and also an African-American head, which is very cool. But he doesn't have an extra vest. He doesn't have any guns. So this is a basic trooper type. They all have different designations. I think that was maybe called the Urban Trooper. I can't recall. Or the Riot Trooper, one of those things. Anyway, so I've got that guy here displayed just with a rifle there. Now this figure here, this is actually just another Condor. So you notice these figures are pretty much identical. I've given them different weapons, but Condor came with an optional masked head, which I've got him with here. He's also had this optional helmet. So by giving that guy the mask and the helmet, I'm able to display them. They look like different characters. Now this guy back here, this is another one that's a very kind of like lazy custom of mine, because you see this here, this is the character Bone Collector, and he's got this removable bone mask, which is very cool. Anyway, I bought two of him, and so in order to avoid having two of the exact same figure on my shelf, because this guy is supposed to be a unique character, I just took one of these masked heads and I put it on my extra Bone Collector, and now that kind of allows him to just be one of Bone Collector's henchmen. And then over here, these are two figures that are the same. These are the Swarm Trooper, so this is kind of that sci-fi. They're part of a group called the Hive. They've got this like bug-like look to them. Now you see I've got one in his standard gear, and then this one here I bought the deluxe attachment. So it comes with these translucent wings and the shield, the translucent base. So again, they're the same figure, but I've got them with different weapons and accessories to kind of differentiate them. Now if we go down a shelf here, we've got my Steel Brigade troopers. So I won't bother recapping the whole backstory of Steel Brigade, but Steel Brigade used to be a character from the G.I. Joe toy line, which Bobby Valla was able to kind of borrow for Action Force. So they don't look quite the same as the G.I. Joe version, but pretty similar. So this here is the standard Steel Brigade figure. Now, just to differentiate this guy, because I did buy multiples, this guy here, I just put on one of his balaclava masks. So I still consider him part of my Steel Brigade squad, but he's just not wearing his helmet. And this one here, you'll notice, it has a gold helmet instead of a silver. So it's the exact same figure. Again, I've got them displayed with a different weapon. All their weapons are a little different just to kind of help differentiate them. But with that gold helmet, that was a Kickstarter exclusive if you bought at least 10 figures, which is why I ended up with so many duplicates, because I bought 10, even though there weren't 10 different figures to choose from. But it's because I wanted to get that gold Steel Brigade helmet. Come over here a little bit more. There we have these kind of standard, the basic black trooper. Now, unlike the blue trooper that I had up here that has no vest or anything like that, when it comes to the black trooper, I did buy one of the accessory sets so I could kind of gear him up a little bit more. So he's got a helmet and a vest and all that sort of stuff. Then we've got Karak over here with his kind of crazy medieval helmet. So this is like the leader of the bad guys. Then we have another one of the basic troopers back here. Again, I've got him geared up with an accessory set. And then lastly, we have Sgt Slaughter, who again, he was, he's a real life guy, but he was included in the G.I. Joe cartoon and toy line in the 80s. And again, Bobby Valla was able to kind of scoop him up and include him with his Action Force line. So there you go. That is a recap of my 14 Wave 1 figures. So the first figure from Wave 2A that we're going to take a look at is the Scarab. Now this is another member of the Swarm. So where I previously in Wave 1 had the Swarm Trooper, this guy is the Swarm like heavy weapons specialist. So this again is another trooper type. We don't know a whole lot about these guys. There has been a few issues of a comic book that Bobby Valla has released. I haven't had a chance to read any of them yet, so I don't know if they've fleshed out the backstory on this guy yet. I've seen some of the images online, and it's a little unclear. Like, are these guys robots, or are they soldiers, or who knows? Anyway, one great thing about these figures, which is a throwback to the old G.I. Joes, is they all come with file cards. So here you see the Scarab file card. It talks about the, the name, the primary specialty, the secondary skills, birthplace, and then there's a little bio of the character. So that's like right out of, vintage G.I. Joe. And I really think it's great that Bobby Valla included these on all of the boxes. Now, I know there's some people out there that are box collectors. You can see here that I have snipped up the boxes. I've thrown them out, but I have kept the file cards. And I also kept the action points on the bottom. Now, Bobby has said he doesn't know what he's going to do with these yet. But on the vintage G.I. Joe figures, they came with flag points, which were the same idea. They came in all the G.I. Joe cards, and there was a little dotted line kind of instructing you to cut and save them. And then every now and again, Hasbro would do a promotion where if you sent in a certain amount of flag points, you could get like a free figure or something. So I don't know if Bobby's going to do that, but I think it's really fun that he kept that option open. So yeah, if you're like me and you're going to throw out the box, even if you're not going to keep the file card, I would suggest you hold on to those action points, because who knows. Anyway, another thing I want to mention about this before I get rid of it here is you'll notice that all of the Action Force figures come with a display base, and it's a really nice display base. It's kind of this, it looks like steel, and the name Action Force, it's kind of, what's the word? It's like embedded in there, so you can feel that on there. It's got a texture to it, and it's got 4 little pegs on it, so you can kind of choose where you want to stand them up, which is all very cool. But another thing that he's done is there's a little slot in the back. So you see this slit, and what the intent of that is that if you want to display this figure with, say, the file card behind him, you can do that. So that'll hold that in place. So that's pretty cool. I'm not doing that, but it's a really cool option if that's something you want to do. So another thing I'm going to mention with these figures is before I reviewed my Wave 1 figures, I spent a whole evening up in my wife's makeup room with her hairdryer, warming up all of these figures. Because Bobby made it very clear that these figures can be a little stiff and their joints might be a little rigid right out of the box. And so he really suggested that you either take a hairdryer to their joints to loosen them up, or dip them in warm water for a little while just to help loosen those joints, because if you start moving them around right outside of the box, you do run the risk of snapping some of their joints. Now, I was very meticulous when it came to my Wave 1 figures. I held the hairdryer to the elbow before I moved any elbow movement up and down. I heated up the holes on their feet before I put them on the pegs because I didn't want to break the pegs. I don't know. I was feeling a little reckless this go around, and I haven't heated up any of the joints on these figures. I haven't had any issues. Like I put weapons in their hands, and I've moved their elbows, I've moved their knees a bit, I put them on their display bases. Nothing has broken. But I'm not going to do any crazy posing here because I don't want to risk damaging the figures. So if you're ordering these figures for the first time, I would suggest that you heed the warning and heat up the figure before you start messing around with it too much. That's not a knock on the quality of the figures. You don't usually have to do that with Hasbro and stuff, but with a lot of the smaller companies, even companies like NECA and stuff, it's probably recommended you heat the figures up a bit so you don't risk any breakage. Anyway, so here's the Scarab. And you see him up close. I love the look of this guy. This figure was initially going to be offered in the very first Kickstarter. It was one of the tiers that could have been unlocked. And I was really disappointed when, that first Kickstarter didn't fund. And then when he brought it back and simplified it the second time around, this guy was not part of the equation because I really wanted him. This was probably my favorite looking figure of the whole series. So it's really cool that we did eventually get it in Wave 2A. So the head there, it's just, it's kind of a translucent yellow, but it's got that nice texture on it. You can feel that, I don't know, I don't want to describe it as like honeycomb. I don't know what that pattern really is, but maybe it's kind of just little circles. I don't know. You can feel it though as you run your finger on it. The one thing, I really do like that translucent yellow, but one thing I don't necessarily like is that you can clearly see the yellow peg, like the neck peg. Maybe the yellow is almost like too translucent, and I think that kind of ruins the effect a little bit. Like if you want to imagine that there's a guy's head in there, like if this is a helmet, that looks a little off to me. Now, if it is, revealed in the comic book that these guys are robots, then that's not such a big deal, I guess. But even if the comic tells me these guys are robots, I might not want to display them as robots in my mind. So, yeah, I wish you couldn't see that neck peg through the head so much. But that is a minor gripe. I really do love the translucent head, and I'm glad, if the choice was either translucent, see the peg, or non-translucent, I would choose the translucent, because I think it really stands out, and it looks really cool. The yellow is a little different from the yellow in the body, but I don't see that as a problem at all. I was a little worried that it might be too glaring, but nope, I think it looks pretty good. It matches up pretty nice. Now, as for the detail on the figure, lots of nice sculpting on there. It's got a very kind of sci-fi, futuristic take to it. You see here for accessories, he's got this knife. It probably could slide in a little bit better to that sheath, but I didn't want to force the issue. But that does pop out of there, like so. And so the nice, even the weapons have paint apps and stuff, which is nice. Yeah, I'm not going to wrestle with that. But anyway, he's also got this yellow and black machine gun. And then he also has a little black and yellow pistol that can be holstered on his leg. So yeah, very cool. Now he does have a couple other accessories that I'll show you. I bought 2 of the Scarab. Since it's a trooper type, I have 2 of them. I don't really have the money or the space to buy huge squads of these guys. I'd love to have, say, 10 of these guys. But it just doesn't really make sense for me. So when it comes to a trooper type like this, I'm probably going to buy 2. So anyway, you see here I've got a bunch of extra hands. Now, this figure did not come with 10 extra sets of hands. These are the extra hands from the 2 Scarabs combined. But anyway, you do see you get, kind of about 5 sets of hands. So you've got closed fists, you've got kind of different types of open gripping hands there. So yeah, there's a variety of hands. Then, other than the 3 weapons that he's holding, he also came with 2 ammo clips, which can be clipped into his gun. But he doesn't have anywhere to store these things, which is unfortunate. A lot of the other figures do have pouches and stuff on them that you can kind of tuck the extra ammo clips on the figure somewhere. This guy does not have that. So yeah, those are just kind of left to the side. So speaking of that other figure, let me bring him in here. So even though he is the same figure, I have chosen to give him some different weapons, some different accessories, so they display a little bit different. So with this guy here, you see I've got him holding his pistol rather than have it holstered on his leg. And this gun here, it's another black and yellow like Swarm pistol. Now it does not match the machine gun that I've given this guy. Now this guy came with the machine gun. I have it sitting loose over here. But I happen to have an extra gun left over from my Swarm Trooper pack that I bought previously with my first wave of figures. So by giving that to him, it just makes these guys look like, even though they're both heavy weapons, Swarm Trooper Scarabs, maybe they have different specialties even between the two of them. Another thing you'll notice I've added here is this backpack. Now, there is a pack of backpacks you can buy. I think some of the figures might actually come with a backpack, but Bobby Vala does sell extra weapons sets, full of different guns and clips, and he also sells sets of backpacks, and they come in a couple of different styles. There's like some shoulder kind of satchels and different types of backpacks here. So that just kind of plugs into his back, like so. And one thing that's really cool about these that G.I. Joe backpacks never did is they open up like so. So for a character like this, where I've got these 4 extra ammo clips, if I don't want to just throw them in my spare parts bin where I'll probably never see them again, I could take all of the 4 extra ammo clips I have for my Scarabs, put them in the backpack like so, and that way this guy can cart them around. And if I ever felt I needed to get them out for some reason, I know exactly where they are. So that is very, very cool. Now before we move on to the next figure, I do want to talk about the sculpting on these guys a little bit. I think that this head sculpt is the only unique piece on these figures, which I'm fine with that. If you're an action figure collector, and I assume you are if you're watching this video, you know that shared parts is, that's the name of the game. It's part of collecting. Companies put a lot of money into creating these molds for these figures, and it only makes sense for them to try and get their money's worth and reuse them whenever they can. So if we look at the original Swarm Trooper from Wave 1, he has got those same armored boots, those same armored legs, those same armored arms. So side by side, these guys have the same legs, although they might be painted. The lower legs look like they're painted about the same, but the upper legs are different. Where this guy has yellow pants with the silver straps, or with the silver armor. This guy has black pants with the silver armor. You see here, I don't even know what you call this little bit, the belt, I guess, the belt and these parts that come off of it. His is black. He's got the same piece, but his is yellow. The arms appear to be perhaps the exact same. So yeah, those arms look like they might be interchangeable there. And then the torso, I'm not sure what torso this guy's got underneath. I'm not sure if it's the exact same piece as the original Swarm Trooper. It may very well be. And even if it is, I don't know if it's painted the exact same. Like perhaps it's reversed with, black in the middle and yellow on the sides. I don't really know. You can take these vests off, but I don't really want to bother doing that because they can be a little tough to wrestle with some of the pegs and stuff. I found that with my the basic figures when I had to arm them up. It was a real chore sometimes to get some of the vests to seal up on their sides and stuff. So I really don't want to start taking these guys apart. I don't plan on doing customizations that way, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Now you will notice that their removable web gear, or their vests, whatever you're going to call it, is pretty different. So this guy here just kind of has this almost like a little crop top armor that just covers his upper half, whereas this guy's got the full chest armor. It looks a little more heavy duty with those like bullet shells kind of sculpted right on the front. Now that's a really cool piece, but that is not unique. We saw that before on Wave 1 on Bone Collector. So basically they took the Swarm Trooper body from Wave 1, put on the Bone Collector armor, gave him a new head, and called it a day. And I think it works great. Like, I love the look of this guy. It's still my favorite one from the wave. It was my most anticipated. I don't care that he's made up of pretty much entirely reused parts. I think they work really well together. I think the color scheme is really striking. You know, if you wanted to, you could go to Valaverse's website and you could buy one of these swarm packs that come with the shield and like this Stinger backpack, and you could buy one of those and put it on one of these guys if you wanted. That would help differentiate them a little bit more. I might even do that since I have the two different figures. Anyway, really cool stuff. Love this figure a lot. Now, before we move on from the Swarm completely, I do want to show you another figure that's not technically from 2A or from Wave 1. This is kind of an in-between figure, I guess. So after Wave 1 was offered, Valaverse had an exclusive figure that was available only through the BotCon like Transformers convention, which is kind of an odd pairing, I know, but it was pretty cool, and they did make it very easy to buy, unlike a lot of exclusives where, you know, they sell out in minutes and they're very expensive. The price of this figure was very reasonable. It was on par with the other figures, and people could order it through the BotCon website without any problem. I think they were pretty much made to order. So this figure here I got pretty soon after my Wave 1 figures. So Wave 1 shipped directly from Bobby Vala, but this figure here shipped directly from BotCon. So this here is the Wasp Raider figure. So it is the same figure as the Swarm from Wave 1. So he's got all those same, the armored boots, the armored legs, everything we just looked at. He's got that same kind of like mid-torso armor. And then he came with the add-on pack. So with this guy here, you had to buy the wings separately, and they just came on their own. This figure here, it came with the pack. And you can see here that instead of translucent yellow, he comes with translucent blue. And he's just got a very striking color scheme with the green and the black and the yellow with the blue highlights. I know I didn't really talk about the Wave 1 figures because I previously reviewed them, but the Wave 1 Swarm Trooper also had a translucent yellow head, at least as far as the eyes went. It also suffered a little bit from being able to see the peg through the yellow. Anyway, the Wasp Raider figure, it doesn't suffer from that as much. Like, you can still see the peg through there if you really look, but I think the blue, it's still translucent, but it's not as translucent, and the yellow. So I think this is much more successful, much more effective this way, in that giving it the kind of the creepy translucent look without revealing that there's not actually somebody's head inside of the figure. So, really cool figure. I like this guy a lot. I've been wanting to review him for months now, because like I said, I got him in January. It's now May. But I just haven't really had an opportunity to do so because, I didn't have any other Action Force figures to review, and I didn't want this guy to just get lost in a miscellaneous review. I really wanted to show him off. Now, he does come with his own display base as well. So his is a little different. He came with a yellow display base. So all these figures came with the, this kind of steel-looking base. This one, the only reason he has that translucent yellow pack is because it came with the accessory pack, not the actual figure. So the Wasp Raider is the first figure to come with a unique stand all his own. So it's yellow, but it's not translucent. So it's kind of a matte yellow. Now, I haven't actually put him on here because when I did try, I did feel a little bit of resistance. So I think I do need to take the hairdryer to the pegs, to the holes on his feet there to loosen them up a little bit to make sure he fits on the base okay. So he has just been sitting around here on my floor for several months because I wanted to wait to review him before I take him upstairs, hairdry him, and put him on display with the rest of my figures. Now, just for a little bit of a reference of why he does have this crazy color scheme, which looks pretty different from the other Swarm Troopers, it's because he is related to BotCon. He was a BotCon exclusive, and he is intended to look like the Transformer character Waspinator. So this is a character from the Beast Wars mythology. So he's a robot that turns into a wasp, and he had this, green, yellow, black with the blue eyes and all that sort of stuff. So this is a Wasp Raider figure I have in my collection, and you can definitely see how this guy was influenced by that look. I think it's a really cool kind of mashup, and yeah, hopefully if you want this guy, hopefully you can still get him somehow. I'm not sure if he's still available through BotCon, or maybe you have to go to eBay or something, but it is a really cool figure, and he definitely looks awesome amongst the other Swarm Troopers. So next up, we're going to take a look at Rollout. So this guy here, as per his file card, his real name is Gregory Seams, and his primary specialty is infantry, and his secondary skills are air assault, pathfinder. And then you get a nice little bio from him as well, with the action points. So this is a nice looking figure. I really like that blue. I don't know what you'd call it. Teal, aqua blue. I don't know, but not only do you get that blue on his vest, but you also get it on his shirt underneath. You see there's some texturing on the shirt, which looks really cool, even though you don't see a whole lot of it. Again, you could take the vest off of this figure if you wanted to, but I'm not going to. And then, yeah, you see his face here. Now, I talked about this in my previous review of Action Force figures. I don't love the way these faces necessarily turned out. When the Kickstarter was launched and we were shown prototypes, the faces were much more cartoony, for lack of a better word. Like, they looked more like your traditional action figure with the eyes just kind of painted on, and I liked the look of those prototypes. But before the figures actually made it into our hands, Bobby Valla was excited to announce that he was using the kind of the face scan digital printing technology that they use on a lot of toy lines now, like Star Wars Black Series. So rather than leave the painting up to a painter to kind of just try their best to capture the look of, say, Mark Hamill on a Luke Skywalker figure, they actually take like a digital image of Mark Hamill and kind of digitally scan and print the face right onto the figure. So it should, when it works out, give us a much more realistic looking version of the figure. I don't think it worked all that successfully on the Action Force guys. Like, it's not bad, but I do find like Rollout here looks a little, his eyes look a little crazy. Like he's got cataracts or something. I'm having a hard time getting to focus here, but yeah, I don't know if you're seeing that. It's just like, it's okay. And I think it's worse on other characters. It's not too bad on him here. But yeah, the eyes, the digital face printing is not my favorite part about these figures. I think the sculpting and the paintwork throughout the body is really, really nice. Like, you can see all the like little scuffs in the metal. So the armor, you can see how the paint is like, looks like it's been chipped off, probably from getting shot with bullets and stuff, or shrapnel. Very cool. Great stuff. This is an example of him having the vest with the ammo clips. So you see he's got two separate ammo clips, but they're tucked away inside there. He's got a pistol, which I've got holstered on his leg. He's got a smaller knife than the Scarab head, and that's just holstered, or sheathed, I guess, on the back of his vest. So it's going to look like he doesn't have a whole lot of accessories when I show them to you, but that's because most of them are already clipped onto the figure. He's also got this nice, again, I don't know guns. I'll just say it's a machine gun. But I like that it's got that kind of tan color to it. It kind of matches up with his pants. So for accessories, he came with a bunch of extra hands. So here's all the hands. So again, different types of grip. So there's a tighter grip, a looser grip, some closed fists. And I've got him with, I don't know, a middle grip. I don't know, like, if I were to put the pistol in his hand, I'm sure I would just jam it into the same hand here. But he probably has hands specifically for the rifle and a hand specifically for the pistol for you guys if you really want to get super anal about it. But as long as he's got an open hand and a closed fist, that's really all I need. But it is nice that they do give you all those options. He also came with a helmet. So he's got a helmet with... And I'm not going to take this apart either, but these, the night vision, they are removable, so you can pop that out. And also these bits on the side are removable. So if you want to take those, I don't know, ear protectors, whatever you want to call those, you can take those off. That'll change up the look of the helmet, as well as the night vision. I think you could pop that off and flip it around. So if you wanted him to wear the helmet with the night goggles, night vision over his eyes, you can do that. And let's give it a go here, I guess. Just don't want the ear things to pop off because those are hard to get back on. All right, so there we go. There he is with the helmet, with his night vision. So, very cool. So, a nice figure. Now, as far as the parts go, so just like with the Scarab, he's primarily reused parts. So if I bring Condor in here, you'll see that he's got the same legs as Condor, the same knee pads. He's got the same like canteen on the side of his leg there. He's probably got the same torso. He's definitely got the same vest, although painted differently. And I think that's great because, like, sure, you could look at it as, wouldn't it be cool if every figure had a unique vest? And yeah, it would be, but at the same time, these are supposed to be a team. So having a little bit of consistency, it works. It doesn't feel like it's lazy. Not every soldier in the battlefield is going to have a different uniform. That just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So I like that they've at least given them the different colors, and they have changed up a few parts. For example, you see here he's got the rolled up sleeves. When it comes to Rollout here, he has short sleeves, and I think those are brand new parts. So he might have the same shoulders as, say, Condor, but I think the rest of the arms are new because none of the Wave 1 figures had the t-shirt arms. So that's new. And then you'll notice for his legs, so even though he's got the same knee pads here as Condor, he does have different boots. So Condor's got the straps, whereas Rollout has laces. Now those are not new parts. Those would be the same boots that we saw on characters like Karak from Wave 1. So, you take a little bit of character A, a little bit of character B, and you create something new. Now, just since I've got Condor here, I will mention this is an example of, I think, the face, the digital printing gone wrong. I think he looks a little weird. And I think he probably looks like they try to make him more realistic, but he ends up just looking creepy or something. So yeah, it's not my favorite. Anyway, when it comes to Rollout here, this was one of the characters they showed in the original Kickstarter. He was one of the first figures we were, going to get. Now, he got pushed back to Wave 2, which I didn't mind because this is not a figure I was excited about. Like, he's fine, but to me, he's just way too similar to the G.I. Joe character Roadblock. Like, if you told me this was Roadblock, I would say, absolutely, it's Roadblock. Now, Roadblock doesn't have, he's a big guy, he's a bald guy, he's a black guy, he's got a beard and a mustache, kind of like a goatee, so, but it's not just that, like, it's the face, it just looks like it's Roadblock's face. Like, they could have given him some more, I don't know, some distinguishing features, maybe if he had, hair, for example, or sideburns or anything, but this head just looks like Roadblock. That's how Roadblock looked in the G.I. Joe cartoon, and so, I don't know, especially by the time I was buying Wave 2A, I already had this Roadblock figure, I just didn't really feel like, am I going to buy every Action Force character? I'm not sure if I'm going to be a completist on this line yet, and this is the kind of character I felt that I could skip because it was just too similar to a G.I. Joe character I already had, and even Roadblock's not one of my favorite Joe characters, so it just didn't excite me so much. However, this is where, Bobby Vala is brilliant for including the extra heads with the figures. So this guy's got this extra balaclava head. And for me, I like that so much better. I can pop this guy. Oh, shit. I literally just broke his head. Damn it. All right. Well, that sucks. That's why you got to take a hairdryer to these guys. And this is really disappointing because I actually... I'd already swapped this head out 2 or 3 times before I shot this video. So I didn't expect that to happen. I shouldn't have tried to do it on camera. Fuck. Anyway, I could probably still salvage this with a little bit of sticky tack or something And but anyway, you see him here with the masked head. And now you can either display him as just a kind of a generic trooper to back up Action Force, or you could still call him, he could still be Rollout. But I just think the balaclava masks, by making him a little bit more generic without showing his face, it actually makes him a little bit more unique. It doesn't feel like a Roadblock clone anymore, and I actually really like it. And I'm trying not to show my heartbreak on camera right now, the fact that I just broke this guy's head off. That is really disappointing. Like I said, I really do think it actually looks okay just sitting there. So I think if I take some sticky tack and stick it in there, it's not going to be the end of the world, because I don't really play with my figures. He's just going to be displayed on my shelf. But still, that's just a good example. It's a warning. Be careful with your figures. So the next figure we're going to look at is Sgt Slaughter version 2. Now, when I first placed my pre-order with Big Bad Toy Store for Wave 2A, I'll be honest, the 2 Scarabs were the only 2 figures I was initially going to buy. I thought, okay, I love the Scarab, so I want them, obviously. But I didn't really feel I needed another Sgt Slaughter, because I already got Sgt Slaughter in Wave 1. And when it came to Rollout, I thought, he just looks like Roadblock, so I don't really need another Roadblock. But when it came to Rollout, I looked at that masked head, and that's what convinced me to go ahead and order him. So I ordered 2 Scarabs, and I ordered Rollout. And I was going to pass on the other 2 figures from this wave. But those 3 figures were sitting in my pre-order box for a while, and then when these figures started showing up online and I started seeing pictures of like Sgt Slaughter 2 on Instagram and such, I decided, you know what? I think I am going to order those other 2 figures that I was initially going to pass on. And I'll explain why momentarily. Although this is a super solid figure. Like, if you wanted to order this guy just as is, whether you have the previous Sgt Slaughter or not, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a really great figure. If I bring out Sgt Slaughter version 1 for a second here. So he came with a bunch of accessories. I've got him displayed with some of them here. But I thought this was a really cool figure. Like, the sunglasses and the hat fit on his head pretty well. They're both removable. But I think the biggest gripe a lot of people had with him is that he's wearing this jacket. So you see the jacket is removable, but the sleeves are not. So if you look underneath there, he's got green. So he's supposed to have like a tank top on, but you can't really take his jacket off, because then he's going to have the jacket sleeves. And, I have no problem with the green jacket, but the vintage G.I. Joe Sgt Slaughter figure did not have a jacket. He had a tank top. So I think a lot of people wanted this new Sgt Slaughter to kind of be, more similar to the vintage G.I. Joe figure. So they wanted a Sgt Slaughter in a tank top. I get it. I'm not a huge Sgt Slaughter fan. I didn't really care that much one way or the other. I was totally content with this Sgt Slaughter. If it was the only Sgt Slaughter we ever got, that's fine. But Bobby Vala, I don't know if his intent was always to make 2 different figures, but he did. And I don't know if it was just to appease the people that weren't happy with this version, or again, maybe, you sign Sgt Slaughter, you might as well take advantage of the fact that you have him promoting your toy line. So why not? Maybe we'll even get 3 or 4 more versions of this guy. I don't know. But anyway, so as far as shared parts, you see the paint job is a little different. Like, this guy's got the 2-tone boots. This guy's just got solid black boots, but I think they're the same boots anyway. The pants are the same, I think, but this guy's got like a nice subtle kind of camo 2-tone pants. This guy's just got the solid 1 color kind of grayish green pants. I think they have the same torso with the tank top, except this guy's finally got the bare arms. And I believe those are probably the same bare arms that we saw on Karak here. So those would not be new parts. The head, it's the same head that we got on the previous Sgt Slaughter. So nothing new as far as the base figure goes. But there are some new accessories. So like this web gear here with the pouches. So this is new. We didn't see that on any Wave 1 figures. For accessories, so he's got this big giant revolver that holsters on his leg here. He's got this kind of, I think that's a grenade launcher type of gun. We did see that in Wave 1 in different colors. Does he have a knife? I don't think so. Now you'll notice his hat just fell off. So he does have this removable hat. It's very well made. Yeah, it's not going to stay on him if you flip him upside down or anything, but it does sit on his head pretty nicely. I feel the Wave 1 guy, I had a little better time getting that to sit right, so I'm not sure if they changed something here, but it does fit him quite well. He does have the sunglasses, so they're a different shade. So the previous sunglasses had like kind of a silver trim. These ones have a gold trim, and they sit on him like so. These ones, again, feel a little stretched out. They don't seem to fit quite as snug as the Wave 1. But I think maybe if you get those on there with the hat and everything, you can find a way to make that all work. Anyway, it's a little finicky. He also came with this different hat, which is kind of neat. So you can go with a totally different look for him if you want. And he also came with, so he's got the vest. Or, well, it was a jacket on this figure, but now it's a vest because he's got the bare arms. So you could put this on him if you wanted to. It's got the slot on the back, so that way you can still put a book bag, but a backpack on him. And he did come with this backpack, so you can plug that right through there and that'll fit on his back. Or you can put it on him just as is. Now it seems with the web gear there, those pouches seem like they might get in the way a little bit. So that doesn't really work. You might have to take the web gear off to get that backpack to fit nice and snug. And he does have a whole bunch of extra hands. So again, the kind of standard stuff, some closed fists, some gripping hands. One thing that he has that I really like is this pointing hand, which you'll see I have the pointing hand displayed on my Wave 1 figure. I just like that he can kind of bark orders and point directions at the other troopers. So that's very cool. So I wasn't going to buy this guy, despite the fact that he's different from this. Again, I'm not a huge Sgt Slaughter fan. It always seemed a little weird to me that they took a wrestler, like a real-life guy, and stuck him in the G.I. Joe line with all these cartoon characters. I didn't mind it, but I wasn't as enamored with it as some people seem to be. And I felt kind of the same with them sticking him in Action Force. It was a cool nod to the fact that he used to be a G.I. Joe figure. But, now he's an even kind of an older guy. He's kind of I don't want to say washed up. That's disrespectful. But, he's not really an active wrestler anymore. He wouldn't probably be an active military guy if he actually was part of the military. So, yeah, even though I think this is a great figure, I just didn't need a second Sgt. Slaughter. But what changed my mind, and now I am scared to death to do this, is I figured I could remove the head. And I'm going to take him off camera to remove his head because I'm going to do it very gently. And I have done this already. Okay, there we go. Head is off. See, and I've done that so many times. I don't know why that happened with Rollout. That's really disappointing. And let's just get his gun back in here. Anyway, when I was showing you my Wave 1 figures, I showed you that one of my Steel Brigade troopers, I gave him kind of a balaclava head instead of the Steel Brigade helmet. And the only reason I did that is because I wanted him to look different from my other Steel Brigade guy. Because I like having a squad of Steel Brigade troopers, but I just didn't want them all to look, like a bunch of clones out there. So I happened to have this Steel Brigade helmet sitting in my spare parts bin. And I thought, you know what? This might actually make for a really cool Steel Brigade guy, which is why I decided to finally buy this. So, and again, I'm going to pull him off so I can be very delicate about putting this on. There you go. That went on pretty easily. And there you go. So, it might look a little odd to have this guy in a tank top wearing this big metal helmet. But I kind of like it. It reminds me of the G.I. Joe character Big Boa, who was a Cobra Trooper, who was a boxer, essentially, and he had boxing gloves and this big metal helmet, but then he just had a tank top on. And so if I kind of forget the fact that this is Sgt. Slaughter, because I already have that other Sgt. Slaughter on my shelf, I can now add this guy to my squad of Steel Brigade troopers, and I think he looks pretty cool. Like, I don't play with my figures, but in my mind, I sometimes do. And I kind of think like, okay, well, what if I were to play Action Force I would probably give all of these guys their own unique names. So even though they are supposed to be just kind of generic Steel Brigade troopers, I could call this guy Steve and Dave and Greg and whatever. And then this guy could just be a unique guy. This could be Robert, the big muscle guy of Steel Brigade. And I just kind of like how he stands out. He's unique. But just by giving him that helmet, he immediately becomes part of the crew. So that's how I intend to display him on my shelf. And I kind of think it's pretty awesome. So the last figure I have from Wave 2A is Duster. Now this is a guy, this is kind of interesting because, like I said, I follow Bobby Vala on social media and everything to see when he's going to announce new figures and when he posts videos to show how production is coming along and all that sort of stuff. And a few months back before, Wave 2A was announced, he said that he was very excited because he was going to be adding a second celebrity to the Action Force roster. So he had Sgt Slaughter in Wave 1, and there was going to be somebody new in Wave 2. And, there was a lot of exciting gossip, like who is it going to be? A lot of people thought it might be the 80s football star William the Refrigerator Perry, because he was the only other real-life guy to join the G.I. Joe team in the 80s. So they thought maybe Bobby would kind of steal him up too. Is it going to be some, action movie star? Who knows? Could it be Sylvester Stallone, because he was actually going to be part of the G.I. Joe team back in the 80s and it never materialized? Who knows? It was kind of exciting to guess. And then they announced it was going to be this guy. So as per his file card, you can see that Duster's real name is Tim Kennedy. He's from California, and this is a real guy. So he's a real guy that served in the military, but he is probably more well known as a mixed martial arts fighter. And the thing is, I am actually a pretty big UFC fan. I have followed UFC for 20 years. But when he announced that Tim Kennedy was going to be his new member of Action Force, I feel a little bad saying this, but I was like, who? I had to be told who this guy was. And it's not like he's some, rando guy that fights in, small promotions. He was part of the UFC, and he fought some pretty big name guys. He fought former champ Michael Bisping, and, I definitely would have seen Tim Kennedy fight. And for whatever reason, he just didn't make an impression on me. So, by the time this figure was announced, he hadn't fought in the UFC for a number of years. And so when they said his name, I was just like, I don't know this dude. So, as a UFC fan, I might have been kind of stoked if they had stuck in, if they had said George St. Pierre is going to be part of Action Force. I still don't think that's necessary. I think sticking real people in here is, I don't know, I think it's kind of weird almost, but, I would have been a lot more excited if it was one of those names like that. If they're going to put Conor McGregor or Anderson Silva or somebody like that, or even Michael Bisping, But yeah, I didn't know Tim Kennedy. So yeah, anyway, that's who we got. And it's a nice figure. As far as the look of the guy, I've seen Tim Kennedy now in videos and stuff. I'm familiar with him, and I think they did a pretty good job capturing his likeness. So that's cool. Now, if you do find clips of him from back in his fighting days, you might think, well, he looked pretty different. He had some unique facial hair and stuff. And he did, which is why they gave us an alternate head with this yelling face with the kind of crazy twirly mustache. It looks like Errol Flynn or something here. So this is what he looked like, I guess, back in his fight days, which is even weirder because you'd think with a mustache and everything like that, he would have stood out in my mind more, but he just didn't. Anyway, so that's pretty cool that you get kind of a current Tim Kennedy look and probably how he looked when he was in the military, clean shaven. And then you do get, his, I guess, iconic facial hair from back in his fighting days with this more intense, battle cry. So very cool. So you've got two different ways to display him. He's got a helmet. It's the same helmet as Rollout, except where Rollout's was gray, his is cast in green. He also has the separate little night vision goggles, so you can plug those onto the helmet if you like. Now he also has these pieces here, So where I told you the sides of the helmet could come off, you could, I believe you could replace them with these. So it's, instead of just kind of a helmet for protection, it looks like it's got more of a communication type device with a little, a little microphone that would come in over his mouth. So that's cool. He's also got a little pistol here, which I guess he must not have a holster for it. Otherwise, I probably would have stuck it on him somewhere. Oh, and you know what? I actually see a holster right there. So I can tuck that in there like so. There we go. He's also got, you see a couple ammo clips, which are tucked into his vest, even though this is a different vest than we've seen before. So if I bring out the Steel Brigade guy, so again, he's got the same vest as Rollout and as Condor. So you see it had those armor plates on the front and it had the 2 pouches for the clips. This guy's got a different style vest, but he still has the storage for the clips, which is nice. He's also got a knife that can be sheathed on the front, which is very cool. Now he does have this, like, it looks like some sort of communication device that's part of the sculpt, so that's not removable. He has this rifle. He's got a bunch of extra hands, so I think 4 sets of hands in total. Everything you would expect, the gripping hands, the closed fists. And another piece he has, which is really cool, is this separate headset. So you either have the pieces that you can strap onto the helmet, or you can give him these separate pieces here. So I don't know what Tim Kennedy's specialty was when he was actually in the Army. And even when I look at that file card again, it says he is a Special Forces weapon sergeant or a parachutist, pathfinder, sniper. I don't know. I don't know anything about the military, but when I see he's got a headset like that, that makes me think he's some sort of communications officer like Breaker from G.I. Joe. So I don't know if they gave that to him just for the fun of it, or if that does relate to his military specialty as a sniper or parachutist or whatever. But it's a cool accessory that we haven't seen before. Now, as far as the sculpt of the figure, so you see he's got those short sleeves, so he's got the same pieces as Rollout, so it makes sense. Bobby Vala invested in some new short sleeves, so you might as well make use of them. Now, as far as the rest of the torso goes, it's hard to see, but you see it's got that those textured bits on the shoulder. So even though it's painted to just look like maybe he has a blue t-shirt on, it actually is just a reuse of the same torso that we've seen on the other characters there. Now the legs, I'm not sure. They might be partly reused, but you'll notice at least on the lower leg, so rather than have boots exposed, he's got pants that come down with a cuff that comes over his boot. So that's new. We haven't seen that on any other characters before. So at least his lower legs, or perhaps just the cuff, but there's definitely some new parts at work there. So yeah, lots of nice detail on the sculpting. You see all these little bits are painted. That looks like maybe that's supposed to be a switchblade or something there. Another little knife, part of the sculpt. But yeah, really nice stuff. So this is a figure, I'm glad I got him. But at the time, I wasn't going to order him for the same reason I wasn't going to order Sgt Slaughter or Rollout. I was just like, you know what? I like the kind of fantastic elements of G.I. Joe. I liked how zany the characters were and how unique they all were. Like, I really respect what Bobby Vala is doing with his Action Force line. But when I see characters like this, they all just seem a little too, like, real-world military, and that doesn't really excite me all that much. And the fact that this is based on a UFC fighter that I don't know, that didn't really excite me any. So, I have to draw the line somewhere, I thought. And you know what? I'll keep buying the cool, unique characters, but when it comes to kind of basic military guys, I decided I was going to pass on them. But, again, for the same reason I got Slaughter. So if I bring out my Steel Brigade team again. So with the original Kickstarter, I bought 3 of the standard Steel Brigade troopers. And one of them I've chosen to display with this mask to differentiate him. And the other one, I got the bonus gold head because I had bought the 10 figures. So that means he had an extra helmet and he had an extra silver helmet. So one of them I'm using on Slaughter. And the other one, I thought, well, you know what? This guy, he's got a lot of the same colors. He's got that same kind of Steel Brigade blue. he could have my other helmet, and he could be my other Steel Brigade Trooper. So even though he does have these two unique heads, and both of them would be fine, at least my plan, whether I stick with it or not, is to display him with the Steel Brigade head and have him join my squad here. So I am going to very carefully pop his head off and hope for the best. Okay, came off nice and easy. And there we go. So I think that looks pretty cool. I think it fits a lot more seamlessly onto Duster than it did on Sgt Slaughter. Like, I really like how this is kind of unique and reminiscent of Big Boa, but this guy, I think it makes a lot more sense on him, and he looks like a believable member of this squad. So yeah, this is how I intend to display all these guys on my shelf. So I've got a nice little crew of Steel Brigade Troopers, and yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. Okay, so that is my review of Valaverse's Action Force Wave 2A. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave me comments below. It's always appreciated. I love chatting with you guys. What do you think of these figures? If you haven't picked them up previously, I recommend you at least grab a couple of them. It's definitely worth owning one and just getting a feel for it. I guarantee you'll want to go back for more. Very cool stuff. So that's it for now. I'll be back with another video soon. I'll see you then. Ciao.